Tales told in Granny T's fort, Peyton and the Worry Storm. The blanket fort was already waiting. It always was. Quilts draped from chairs like gentle hills. Pillows were stacked into soft corners. The air inside smelled faintly like laundry soap and the warm kind of quiet that only exists when people you love are nearby. Peyton crawled in first, as usual, not because she wanted to be first, because she needed to make sure everything was okay. Her sleeping bag was straight, her pillow was where it should be, her lantern was in its place. The fort walls were tucked in tight. Roland slipped in behind her without a sound, already settling like he belonged to the shadows. Jesse came next, still half wild from the day, but calmer than yesterday, like his fire had learned a new rule. Oliver crawled in last, careful not to bump anyone, whispering, "Scoot over a little," like he was making sure the fort stayed peaceful. Then Granny T ducked inside and lowered herself into her cozy chair. She held her magic lantern in her lap, both hands around it like it was a warm mug of tea. For a moment, nobody spoke, and then Peyton did. Her voice was small. "Granny T?" Granny T's eyes softened. "Yes, my love." Peyton stared down at her sleeping bag zipper. She pulled it up, then down, then up again. "I can't stop thinking," she admitted. Jessie rolled over. "About what?" Peyton's shoulders rose in a tight little shrug. "Everything," she whispered. Roland's eyes flicked toward her, quiet, quick, attentive. Oliver sat up a little. "Like worried thinking?" Peyton nodded. "It's like," she swallowed, "my brain keeps making lists, and if I don't finish the lists, it feels like something bad will happen." Granny T didn't say, "That's silly." She didn't say, "Don't worry." She didn't say, "You're fine," like fine was something you could force. Instead, she leaned forward slightly. Her voice was soft and steady. "If today felt too big," she said gently, "we'll make it smaller, one story at a time." Peyton's eyes stung with relief before she even understood why. Granny T turned the lantern's knob. Click! Golden light bloomed inside it, slow and calm, like a sunrise that didn't need to hurry. And just like that, the story world woke up. The fort felt bigger, not louder, just wider, like there was room for Peyton's thoughts to stretch out without squeezing her. The air changed too. It smelled like rain on warm pavement and the inside of a library. The lantern glow spilled onto the floor, and the shadows shaped themselves into a soft little path. Granny T's voice became the story. "Tonight," she whispered, "I'm going to tell you about a girl who carried a storm." Peyton's eyes lifted. "A storm?" she whispered. Granny T nodded. "A real one." The lantern pulsed once, and the story began. The girl who carried a storm. Once upon a time, in a town where the streets were lined with silver stones and the rooftops glittered like sugar, there lived a girl named Peyton. She was smart. She was kind. She noticed things other people missed, like when someone's smile was a little too tight, or when a friend's laugh didn't reach their eyes. Peyton liked plans. Plans made the world feel steady. Plans made the world feel safe. But Peyton also had a problem. A small storm cloud followed her everywhere. It wasn't a scary storm, not a thunder and lightning scary. It was a worry storm. It floated above her head like a little gray puff, always close enough to touch. At first, Peyton thought it was almost cute. It made tiny sounds like drip, drip, drip. And when Peyton worried, it rained softly. Only on her, not on anyone else, just Peyton. The first time she noticed it, she was walking to the town market with a basket in her hands. She was halfway there when her worry storm gave a tiny drip. Peyton stopped. She looked up. The cloud hovered politely above her as if waiting. Peyton frowned. What? The cloud dripped again. Peyton's stomach tightened. Oh no, she whispered. Did I forget something? She checked her basket. Bread, yes. Coins, yes. List, yes. The cloud dripped again, slightly harder. Peyton's mind raced. What if I forgot to lock the door? What if the cat got out? What if the stove is on? What if something bad happens and it's my fault? The cloud grew, just a little. Peyton turned around and hurried home. When she got there, the door was locked. The cat was asleep. The stove was off. Everything was fine. But the cloud didn't go away. It hovered, waiting. The next day, Peyton tried again. She told herself, I'm not gonna listen to it. But the cloud followed her to school. It followed her to the lunch table. It followed her to the playground. Every time Peyton thought a worried thought, it rained a little more. What if I say something weird? What if I don't know the answer? What if someone gets mad at me? What if I mess up? By afternoon, Peyton's hair was damp and her socks squished when she walked. Her friend waved from across the yard. Peyton waved back, but her smile felt tired. She was trying so hard to be good, to be careful, to keep everything from going wrong. But the storm cloud didn't care how hard she tried. It just kept dripping and dripping and dripping. That night, Peyton sat at her desk, staring at her homework. The cloud hovered above her head, now the size of a small pillow. Peyton's pencil shook in her hand. I can't do this, she whispered. The cloud rained harder. Peyton blinked fast. She wasn't crying because she was weak. She was crying because she was full. Full of thoughts, full of pressure, full of trying to be responsible for everything. Peyton slid off her chair and curled up on the floor. And that's when she noticed something strange. The storm cloud wasn't angry. It wasn't mean. It looked scared. Peyton sniffed. She stared at it. Are you scared too? She asked. The cloud gave a tiny drip, then another. Peyton swallowed. She didn't know why, but suddenly she felt less mad at it, more curious. Peyton stood up and walked outside. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she couldn't breathe in her room anymore. The town was quiet at night, lit by lanterns that glowed like sleepy fireflies. Peyton walked until she reached a place she'd never noticed before. A small door in a stone wall. Not a scary door, a gentle door. Above it hung a sign carved in neat letters. The Weather Library. We keep what you can't. Peyton stared. The Weather Library? She whispered. Her storm cloud hovered closer, dripping softly. Peyton hesitated, then pushed the door open. Inside, the air smelled like old paper and warm tea. The room was filled with shelves, hundreds of shelves, stacked with jars. Each jar held a different kind of weather. Sunshine swirled in one jar like honey. Snowflakes drifted in another like feathers. A soft fog curled in a third like a sleepy cat. and at the center of the room sat an old owl behind a desk. Not a normal owl. This owl wore tiny round glasses and a knitted scarf. The owl looked up slowly. "Hello," it said, voice calm as a page turning. Peyton froze. "Hi," she whispered. The owl's eyes blinked once. Then it looked above Peyton's head at the storm cloud. "Ah," the owl said kindly, "a worry storm." Peyton's throat tightened. I didn't mean to," she began. The owl raised a wing gently. "No blame," it said. "Worry storms happen to thoughtful children." Peyton swallowed. "It won't leave me alone," she admitted. "It follows me everywhere." The owl nodded, like this was the most normal thing in the world. "Of course it does," the owl said. "It thinks it's protecting you." Peyton blinked. "Protecting me?" The owl leaned forward. "Worry," it said softly, "is your brain trying to keep you safe by imagining every possible danger." Peyton's shoulders drooped. "But it's too much," she whispered. "It's making me tired." The owl nodded again. "That," it said gently, "is when you learn the weather library rule." Peyton's eyes widened. "There's a rule?" The owl lifted one feathered wing and held up a single talon. "Yes," it said. "When the storm comes," Peyton leaned in. "You do not fight it," the owl said. Peyton frowned. "But I don't want it." The owl blinked slowly. "You don't have to want it," it said. "You just have to stop wrestling it." Peyton's stomach fluttered. "How?" The owl reached into a drawer and pulled out something small, a tiny glass jar with a cork lid. On the jar was a label written in careful handwriting. "Not right now." Peyton stared. "Not right now?" The owl set it on the desk. "This," it said, "is a holding jar." Peyton's storm cloud drifted closer, dripping. The owl's voice stayed calm. "When the storm whispers a what if," it said, "you may say, 'I hear you.' Then, 'Not right now.'" Peyton swallowed. "That's it?" The owl nodded. "You do not have to answer every what if," it said gently. "Some thoughts are just weather passing through." Peyton looked up at her cloud. It hovered above her head like a worried pet. Peyton took a breath. She tried. "Okay," she whispered to the cloud. "I hear you." The cloud paused. The dripping slowed. Peyton's eyes widened. She tried again, a little steadier. "But not right now." The cloud made a soft little puff, like a sigh. The owl nodded approvingly. "Now," it said, "place one worry in the jar." Peyton's stomach twisted. She didn't know if she could, but she looked at the jar. Then she whispered the worry out loud. "What if I mess up tomorrow?" The moment she said it, the cloud dripped harder. Peyton flinched, but the owl's voice was steady. "Good," it said. "You named it. That means it's smaller now." Peyton's hand trembled as she held the jar up. The storm cloud shivered. A tiny raindrop slid down from it, silver and heavy, and fell into the jar with a quiet plink. Peyton gasped. The jar glowed faintly. The owl smiled. "One worry," it said, "held safely." Peyton stared at the jar like it was the most magical thing she'd ever seen. She whispered another. "What if someone is mad at me?" Plink, another silver drop, another glow. Peyton's shoulders began to loosen. She wasn't fixing everything. She wasn't solving the future. She was simply placing worries somewhere safe, one by one. And as she did, the storm cloud above her head shrank. Not gone, just smaller, more manageable. Finally, Peyton looked up. The cloud was now the size of an apple. It hovered quietly, no longer pouring, just existing. The owl leaned forward, voice soft. "Worry storms don't disappear forever," it said, "but you can teach them where to go when they get too loud." Peyton hugged the holding jar to her chest. "But what if something bad happens and I didn't worry about it enough?" she whispered. The owl's eyes softened. "Oh, little one," it said gently, "worrying does not stop bad things from happening." Peyton's breath caught. The owl continued, kind as a blanket. "But resting helps you handle what happens when it does." Peyton's eyes stung. She nodded slowly. The owl reached out and tapped the jar label. "Not right now," it reminded her. Peyton whispered it again. "Not right now." And for the first time in a long time, Peyton felt dry, not empty, just calm. The next morning, Peyton walked to school. Her storm cloud followed, small, quiet, but still there. As she reached the school gates, the cloud gave a tiny drip. Peyton's stomach tightened. She could feel the what if rising. What if I forget everything? What if I do badly? What if everyone notices? Peyton paused. She didn't run. She didn't spin into a list. She placed a hand over her chest, like she could feel the holding jar there. She whispered, "I hear you." The cloud trembled. Peyton took a breath. "Not right now." The cloud stopped dripping. Peyton walked inside. She wasn't fearless, but she was steady, and that was enough. The lantern glow softened. The weather library faded. The jars of sunshine and fog dissolved into warm shadow, and suddenly the fort was just the fort again. Blankets overhead, sleeping bags below, Granny T in her chair. Peyton blinked slowly. Her chest still felt tight, but not as tight, like someone had loosened a knot. Granny T's eyes rested on her, gentle and knowing. Peyton swallowed. "What if—" she started, then she stopped. She looked at Granny T, almost shy. "Can I say not right now?" Peyton asked. Granny T smiled, warm as a nightlight. "Yes," she said softly, "you can." Peyton nodded, like she was putting something important in her pocket. Oliver whispered, "That's a good jar." Jessie huffed, "I want one." Roland murmured, barely audible, "Me too." Granny T's smile widened. "You all have one," she said gently. "You just have to remember where it is." Peyton's shoulders dropped. She breathed in, then out, slow, and for once the inside of her head wasn't shouting. It was quieter. The fort was quiet again, blankets above, sleeping bags below, and the soft sound of everyone breathing a little slower. Granny T turned the lantern down low until it looked like a tiny golden star. She reached out and gave the closest sleeping bag a gentle pat. "Good," she murmured. "That's better." Then, in her softest voice, "Close your eyes, my loves. You're safe. You're loved. You're home."